This is Arts Alive. I'm Lynda Phillippi. My guest today is the award-winning filmmaker of Meadowlake Productions, Mike Santone. Welcome.
Hi, Lynda. Glad to be back.
Yeah. Last time you were here, we were discussing things other than your filmmaking, so today I would really like to dive a little bit more deeply into what you do at Meadowlake.
Meadowlake Studios is a collaboration between Elizabeth, my wife, Elizabeth Santone, and myself. It started in 2007, well, 2006, but it's because of you.
Okay.
You'd asked for help on Arts Alive, and I was involved with the Arts Alliance, and I came down to help.
Right.
And I looked at the McMinnville Community Media and what they had to offer. And at that time, Elizabeth was still working up in Portland, commuting back and forth.
Oh, my heavens. Okay, yeah.
The community media had cameras to check out. They had training, those kinds of things. So I was helping you, and then I started taking classes and learned how to run the camera and stuff. And Elizabeth and I talked because she was getting ready to retire. And you know, when you work, you go off to your jobs, and then you come home, you have dinner, and talk and stuff, but you're still going back and forth. And
sure.
Elizabeth and I are both artists, and we both did the same thing when we retired. We were like, I would go to my studio and play in the mud, and she'd go and paint, but we weren't doing anything together.
Okay.
But we were together all the time. I mean, you know. So Meadowlake Studios was an opportunity for us to do something creative and to learn together. So what we do is we, you know, we'll come up with a show idea, or and most of the time those are artists and people we know from being involved in the art community, and we go out and interview them, and then come back and edit. And Elizabeth, the way we edit is very similar probably to the way writers who collaborate on a story or collaborate on a book. Elizabeth will do a draft, then I'll do a draft, then she'll do a draft, and I'll do a draft. Sometimes, you know, she'll finish, and then she says, "Okay, come in," and then I come in and critique, and vice versa. I'll finish one, and she comes in and critiques. But it's really allowed us to learn a huge amount, a lot of different kinds, and meet different kinds of people, and to do a creative thing together. So it's and if you hadn't have asked for help, and I hadn't come down and started to help, we probably wouldn't have done it, because I didn't know anything about video or any of those things at all. And you know, you mentioned in your nice introduction about award-winning. Well, you know, we started in 2007. Our first experience was I'd been doing a few things for Yamhill Carlton in the Yamhill Carlton area, and so thus I was an expert, right? I was an expert, and they had a contest that they wanted to enter something to enter. I think it was a Kia. One of those had a downtown improvement award.
Oh, right, okay.
And so
sure.
we said, "Oh yeah, sure, we'll do that." and so we went out and we shot and we interviewed all kinds of people in the community, and we put it all together, and it was supposed to be 3 minutes, and so we got it all done, and we called the people up and said, "Okay, come on down and see what we've got." "Okay, we'll be there in a couple hours." So we run through it, and it disintegrates.
What?
And Elizabeth's going, oh, I mean, the whole story just went into, it just disappeared.
Was it digital?
Computer.
Oh,
digital.
Like your file just went away.
It just disappeared.
Black hole.
And Elizabeth and I are going, oh no. Then we discovered that you can reclaim things, that it automatically copies, backs up.
Oh, really?
And so
you must have the right kind of program set up on your computer.
Yeah.
Okay, good for you.
So when they came in, and Elizabeth's comment was, well, at least we didn't embarrass ourselves.
Right.
But it was actually a quite nice little thing on Carlton, and that got us started. And then we've done some other stories around Carlton and artists, and back to the award-winning. So by 2010, we did a story on an informational feature, which is what we're calling most of what we do, on Rory, who is a potter out in Sheridan area.
The wood fire?
Wood fire kiln. And we entered that in the community media contest, whatever it is, and we won.
Yay!
Yay! So
I think it's amazing.
In what, 4 years?
Yeah.
We've progressed. A really recent thing that we've done is John Strummy, who's been on the show quite often. We're friends with him, and he said, "Hey, I'm doing a mural out at the Yamhill Valley."
Right.
Yamhill Valley.
Right.
And so we just finished that, and so I brought it in, and hopefully we can take a look at the video.
Well, that was interesting because he did contact me about that, and I said, oh, you need to talk to Mike because he can come out on location and film it. And he said, well, I want someone to come out about midpoint. And I said, you should talk to Mike now and kind of set that up. I'm really glad that whole thing worked out and you were able to capture all of it.
We were.
Oh, that's good.
And I think it came together pretty nicely.
Okay. I know probably in just a few more minutes we'll be putting that up on the screen. So so that's kind of a perfect example, I guess, people can see of the sorts of things you do. Some of them are short, and then some of them you'll do a longer length as well.
Yes. Well, like with the Rory story, that was a half hour.
Right.
This is about 5 minutes, 5.5 minutes. And we've done everything. We do a lot of performance things with poetry readings and music events and things like that. But the informational features are more creative work in some ways because it's not just a performance. The part of the performance is your editing because you can that's a creative process. Sure. The editing process is where you can really shape what you're saying.
Really shape the story. Right, exactly. I think that's what's so important for, if you're doing something like that, people really want to get the whole sense of who is this person, what are they doing, what is this process, what's the end result. I mean, that's kind of the arc, I suppose you'd say, the story arc.
Yeah.
And developing that.
And the thing is, sometimes we get a story started, like this one, we started in the spring, actually, early spring, and didn't finish until what?
Oh, the one with John? Yeah, okay.
And other stories, like we were working on one having to do with a cherry tree. It started years ago. A fellow that used to work here, well, he volunteered here, John Caspers.
I remember John. He was one of the first cameramen.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, he mentioned that he was cutting down a family cherry tree. And I said, I know a carver, a wood carver, who'd love to have that tree.
Oh, my goodness.
And so I got a hold of Tom Alpheson and said, Tom, there's a cherry tree being, and set up to do a story on this cherry tree, from it being cut down to being cut into slabs, to being stored, to being made into something by Tom.
Oh, wow.
And I missed the part of cutting it, down.
Okay, you weren't there for the actual.
I wasn't. We
Okay.
missed that, but I have a picture of the tree in bloom. And then we were there for when they cut it in. It went to a mill, a little personal mill, and cut it into slabs. Then we went out to Tom's place and filmed it being stacked up. Then we went back to Tom's place and filmed him making something with it, a table.
Oh, is that what he made? Okay.
He made a table out of one of the slabs. Then we went back again, and we still are working on that story. It's been like 3 years.
Oh wow. Okay, but it's not finished yet.
It's not finished yet. So some just take time. Others, I think it's probably like I come back to creative writing because sometimes a writer will start a story, get an idea and start a story, and then lose it about 30 pages in. Well, that happens with video as well. You get a story idea, you talk to people, you take some film, and then you lose the mojo. I mean, the story goes, and you go, well,
what?
and then people are asking, hey, what about, where is that, you know, and you try to figure it out, and you hope that you can pull a story together, and you're terrified that in the editing process, you just can't make it work, and you still have people saying, well, hey, you interviewed us 6 months ago,
when's that going to show? Yes, I do know.
So in a lot of ways, creating videos is very creative in the same sense of creating any kind of work of art.
And you know, that's really an interesting thing, the way you say that, because, you know, when you're talking about the time, or people say, well, what happened to that? I mean, and now I think, you know, it used to be that people had, you know, you had time. If it took you a while to finish your painting or your book or whatever it was going to be, you had time. Now, you know, the infamous 24-hour news cycle, and people are used to everything on a deadline and fast, and now. Well, I talked to you yesterday, why isn't my show on TV yet? I mean, I've had people literally ask me that, and I said, well, it's kind of not up to me. You know, we have a programming director and different kinds of things, but, you know, when something's on a deadline, it's a different push, and it could be news, but it's not really a story. I mean, the creative aspect, I think, for you, obviously, is when you have sometimes the idea has to gel. You just need to think about it, and the idea comes to you when you're doing something, you're riding your bicycle, or whatever. All of a sudden, boom! You wake up in the morning, and you know you have the answer that you didn't have even yesterday. I love that. I think that's what creativity is about. You know, giving yourself time to just let it happen.
Yeah, and I think the other aspect of video is that because it's embedded in technology, there's a huge learning curve.
Oh yeah.
With not only cameras and sound and color and motion and all of the various parts that go into that. It's an incredible learning curve to figure that out, and I find that stimulating too. It's good to keep learning new stuff, besides learning new stuff by just talking to different people. You know, we went out to Dave Hansen's and learned about pounding copper.
He's an interesting man, isn't he?
We went to Steve Tyree, and he makes brass sculptures, and he went through the whole process with us.
Wonderful.
You know, I mean, so from that standpoint, it's really fun.